all the time. Only Vivian. And my family name.
Okay, alright, here we go. Alright, so this is chapter 8, part 2. And where we left off on Friday was I think we did question 8, which was what 2 things does Ralph admit to Piggy, and this was referenced on page 139. And so on page 139, we should have had, let's see, we've got a couple of things on this one. We've got actually an answer not only to question 11, but also question 8. So let's start with question 8. So what, he kind of admits like 3 different things, right? So first of all, he says that he's scared, okay? Did we highlight that? Yes? Okay, so I'm scared. He says, not of the beast. I mean, I'm scared of that too, but nobody else understands about the fire, okay? So he says he's frightened not only of the beast, but of the fact that they may not get rescued. And then if you look further down, he says, you know, we can't keep one fire going and they don't care. And what's more, sometimes I don't. Supposing I got like the others not caring, what would become of us? Okay, so that was down here towards the bottom of the page. I don't know if we highlighted that one.
I think we need that one.
Okay, so if you look at the bottom and you count up, it would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, about 12 lines up from the bottom will get you to what's more, I don't sometimes. Supposing I got like the others not caring, what would become of us? And that would be your other answer for number 8. Okay? Now, we're not there yet, but let's just take it because we're on the right page. Question 11, so in your packet, look at question 11. Question 11 is about Ralph. And it says, in chapter 2, he said, this is a good island. Until the grown-ups come to fetch us, we'll have fun. And he was very positive. And the question is saying, is this still Ralph's opinion? Cite something from the text that would show you that maybe this isn't what he's thinking. And I think we found something really good on page 139. So does anybody see anything on that page that might work? Caitlin?
Well, I said he was vexed to find how little he felt like a grown-up inside again. The island was getting worse.
Perfect. Okay, so that's the second indent on page 139. So top of 139, highlight. Ralph considered this and understood. He was vexed to find how little he thought like a grown-up and sighed again. The island was getting worse and worse. So it's changing his opinion of the island. I don't think that he necessarily feels like they're having fun anymore. But
I also said, I don't know if it was 7 or straight, but in the end it was like, I wish for like a sign of the grown-ups.
oh yeah, when he says in the text that he wished for something, a sign from the world of the grown-ups. Yeah. Okay. So I figured we'd take 11 while we had it. We'll go back. And so now, what's happening here in this part is Jack and his tribe are going to show up, and they're basically bursting into Ralph's camp for 2 reasons. Two things they're there for. Go ahead. One, they have to steal some fire because they have no way to cook their pig. And what is the other thing he does while he's there besides stealing fire? Abby, go ahead.
He like tries to recruit others.
Yes, he's trying to recruit and get more people to come to his side of the island. So everybody go on 140. And do we have the highlight where the boys arrive? The demonic figures, do we have that one? Okay, so that's this paragraph right here. Demonic figures with faces of white, red, and green rushed out howling, so the little ones fled screaming. Out of the corner of his eyes, Ralph saw Piggy running. 2 figures rushed the fire, and he prepared to defend himself, but they grabbed half-burnt branches and raced away along the beach. The 3 others stood still, watching Ralph, and he saw that the tallest of them, stark naked, except for paint and a belt, was Jack. And so we really have to pause for a second and look at this transformation. this boy who has arrived is not the boy we met in chapter 1. He's not the boy with the long black cape and the lacy collar and the beret with the gold badge. No, now he's this boy with longer hair, totally naked, painted from head to toe, and wearing a belt and a knife, and holding a spear. Total transformation, okay? And so Ralph's like, well, because he knows he's there for a reason, and Jack ignores him. He lifts his spear and begins to shout. And we're gonna highlight, ready? Listen, all of you, middle of 140. Me and my hunters were living along the beach by a flat rock. We hunt and feast and have fun. If you want to join my tribe, come and see us. Perhaps I'll let you join. Perhaps not. Which is funny because remember, like just the last chapter, he was trying to get people to vote for him to be chief. And now he's in a position where he can decide who gets in and who doesn't get into his tribe. Okay? And it says he paused and looked around. He was safe from shame or self-consciousness behind the mask of his paint, and he could look at each of them in turn. And so question 9 says, what does this mean? You had to come up with an explanation of this quote. So what does this mean? I want a new hand.
I know Abby's hiring an
I know.
Maybe it should be Luke since he comes back over and
Luke, what does this quote mean?
Okay, I said that since he can hide behind the paint, he's able to ignore his previous humiliations and the anxiousness of speaking. Since he looks like someone else, he doesn't believe himself to be Jack Barrington, like this really cool leader.
Okay.
Plus I'm gonna be okay.
I know, and I'm going to ask you a sort of a next level question. Luke, it says right here that he could look each of them in turn. So what that means is he's literally looking each of them in the face. That is a direct reference to a previous scene, okay, where he could not. And the text literally said that he turned his head at an angle and avoid catching the gaze of another's eyes. Do you know what scene I'm talking about?
Isn't that like when he ran away crying?
Yes.
Yeah.
So in chapter 7, when he does the, I'm not going to play any longer now with you, and he does the whole, who thinks Ralph ought to be chief? And like nobody puts their hand up, he turns his head, and he won't look anybody in the face. And now in this chapter, he's looking them all in the face, because he's got the paint. Okay, so. Okay, so then, this is one of my favorite parts.
I know.
I love this part. So this is, Jack does this just to get at Ralph. Okay? So bottom of 140, it says, second indent up, he says, tonight we're having a feast. We've killed a pig and we've got meat. You can come and eat with us if you would like. And it says, up in the cloud canyons, the thunder boomed again. Jack and the 2 anonymous savages with him swayed, looking up, and then recovered. Could you highlight that sentence, please? Jack and the 2 anonymous savages with him swayed, looking up, and then recovered. That is a really important line. Do you know why? It's a turning point in the novel. Golding's choice of word. Lucy?
Like they're not civilized anymore.
So he's not saying Jack and the 2 boys that stood next to him. He says Jack and the 2 anonymous savages. So what's going to happen is from here on out, for the remainder of the book, every time Golding wants to refer to the boys, he's not going to call them boys. He's going to call them savages. Yes, savages. So it says Jack is standing there with a savage on either side, and he just finished his speech. And at the bottom of 140, it says Jack was waiting for something. He whispered urgently to the others. He goes, go on, now. And the 2 savages murmured, and Jack spoke sharply, go on. And the 2 savages look at each other, raise their spears together, and spoke in time. And they go, the chief has spoken. And then they run away. And really, that is just to show Ralph, guess what? The chief, the real chief, just finished talking. Not you, him. and they run away. So that's important too.
Ooh, roast.
Okay? Alright, so then, number 10. After Jack leaves, the boys that are left with Ralph are sort of in a little bit of chaos. They're all talking, saying things. What's going on? 141, 142. What's all the talk about? What's all the talk about? Come on, guys. Evan.
Should I read it?
You can do whatever you like, whatever you want to do.
That was Jack and Grace and Robert said that Ralph, they are having fun. I thought I was going to have that asthma. What is it? Is it asthma?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Sucks to your asthma. When I saw Jack, I was sure he'd go for the car.
That's Piggy talking. When I saw Jack, I thought for sure he'd go for the cock. Why would he go for that?
He
Well,
already said he doesn't
that
care.
symbolizes what? The rules. Why would he go for the rules? He doesn't care. Doesn't want them. What?
What was the breakdown?
Well, he goes for the fire. He doesn't care about the show. But yeah, maybe. Okay, but yeah, that was Piggy talking. I'm actually looking at 142, Evan. 142 has a little bit more solid information for you. What are all the boys talking about now that Jack has left?
Oh,
They're trying to decide what to do next. And there's some differing opinions here, so I need some help. What do you got? No, what do you have? What do you have for 10? Ellie, what do you have for 10? You guys all got credit for homework. What do you got? What are all the boys talking about? Riley?
They're talking about like the fire and they're trying to make a decision about the food,
About what?
the meat,
Yeah, right. Jack invited them to what?
the feast.
A feast. So of course they're like, oh, I'm hungry and oh, meat and that does sound good. And Ralph's like, no, we have to get the fire, right? Like we haven't heard about rescue. We haven't been talking about rescue. On 142, second indent, at the top, highlight. The fire's the most important thing. Without the fire, we can't be rescued. I'd like to put on war paint and be a savage, but we must keep the fire burning. Okay, 142, second indent. All right, and the boys are like resisting. They're like, well, you know, they're having a feast and being savages. It looks like jolly good fun. And they're tempted, you know? And they're like, oh, you know, feast and meat, and I could do for some meat. And Ralph's like, well, why shouldn't we get meat on our own, you know? But they're not sold. They sort of want to go. Okay, and so that scene ends with the boys being very indecisive about what they want to do. Okay? Ralph's group is contemplating going to this feast because they've been promised meat. All the boys are really hungry, and they also think that acting like a savage looks fun. And Ralph's trying to keep them there and focused on fire. And he's really sort of outvoted at this point. And that scene ends, and that's going to bring us to page 143, which is going to be the ending scene of chapter 8, which is where I want to spend the rest of our time. Because there's a lot that goes on in this last scene. We want to make sure that you all understand what's happening. Do you have any questions about anything from chapter 8 before I delve into this scene? Everybody's good? Okay. Now, this will also make a lot more sense to you because you've already read chapter 9. So first of all, there is a ton of foreshadowing in pages 143 and 144 when Simon is having a conversation with the Lord of the Flies. Okay? So where I want to start is I just want to start by looking at the scene in isolation and looking at the two characters that make up the scene. Okay? So think about it this way. You've got Simon and you've got the Lord of the Flies, which is literally what? Not figuratively, literally what, Melanie? Is a pig's head on a stick, created by who? Jack, the most evil boy on the island, okay? So the most evil boy on the island has created this entity called the Lord of the Flies, which is the slaughtered pig's head spiked on a stick, okay? This scene really comes down to a universal idea, okay? It's an idea that you guys would see in books, you would see in movies, other things that you may have, seen or viewed, and it's this idea of good versus evil. It's as simple as that. You have a good entity, which is supposed to be Simon, and you have an evil entity, which is supposed to be the Lord of the Flies, okay? So let's start with Simon. Why would I say that, or how could you back that up for me if I were to say, in the book, in the entire novel, on this island, Simon's character is a character that's supposed to represent or symbolize good, righteousness, innocence, purity, doing the right things. What can you think of in the book that would lead you to believe that his character is the good on the island? Okay, give me something. Elliot, give me something.
He stood up for piggies.
He is the only boy on the island who defends the boy whom everybody ridicules. Good. Give me something else. Give me something else. Anything that would show goodness. Go ahead, Vivian.
He's the only one being like helpful and trying to put progress for shelters.
Give me something specific of helpful. You said what? The shelters. He's the only boy that helps Ralph finish the last shelter. Give me something else, Josh. Okay, that's very general. You said he's the most sane person. Give me something more concrete though. Sane means
not like the others.
mind. How is his mind clearer than the others? How's that?
Well, so this, like, everyone believes that there's like a beast on the mountain, but in reality, it's just.
He's the only, he's the only boy who does not believe in the beast. Give me something else. Caitlin.
He doesn't like go to Sonic. Like he doesn't participate in like
What
the
does he
ritual
not
things.
participate?
He does not participate in any of the chants. He has never been on the hunt. And anytime boys fight, he always seems to sort of go away or sort of separate himself from that. What else?
He's very supportive of Ralph.
Yeah, go on being chief when Ralph wants to step down. Give me something else. You guys are missing all kinds of things. More things. Good.
He always like comforts Ralph.
When Ralph was having that moment of crisis, he came in, you'll give back, remember, comforting him. Okay, what else?
I said that like more symbolism is in like the bright shiny area while the Lord of the Flies is like past the vines. So it's like shadowy, sun, stuff like that.
Well, it was midday when he was sitting there, but I'm not sure if all of the text gives me like, I know before the Lord of the Flies is created, he's sitting in the sunlight, but I'm not sure afterwards.
Because the head is kind of in a clearing that's open
Yeah.
and light anyway. I don't know if that works.
Go ahead.
I just added on to him, like
Yeah.
when he's there doing butterfly dancing, so he's kind of like calm and happy over there, but once the butterflies.
They separate, yeah. Okay, so those are all great things, and then don't forget about things like when Piggy gets smacked in the head and his glasses fly off and they break, Simon's the one that retrieves them. When Jack cooks the meat for the first time and he gives Piggy none, Simon's the boy that gives him part of his share. When Simon's walking to his secret spot and the little ones are following him, he stops and picks fruit off the trees for them and hands it back to them. So there's lots of examples of him being good and kind and caring and righteous, okay? So if he is supposed to be the good on the island and the Lord of the Flies is supposed to be the evil, what we see happening in this scene is we see the evil entity attempting to persuade the good entity to join that evil side. That's what this whole conversation is. He wants Simon to go back to the others and be like them and have fun and play like them, which really just means jumping to this side. That's what he wants. He wants the evil and the savagery to continue on the island. And he knows that Simon is probably the reason why it could stop, because he's sort of the good one, okay? Lord of the Flies, coincidentally, this is the Greek translation of the word Beelzebub. And Beelzebub is a name that you'll see in the Bible, which is another name for Satan or the devil. So Beelzebub, when they translate it out of Greek, actually means Lord of the Flies, thus the reason why that's linked, one of the reasons why that's linked to this entity, okay? So what I want to do is read the scene with you. I just want to read 143 and 144, and we're going to highlight a couple places, and we're going to pick apart this conversation, and I want you to think about this. Think about what this evil entity is saying to Simon and why he's saying these certain things, okay? So he starts off by saying, and make sure you're reading with me, "You are a silly little boy," said the Lord of the Flies, just an ignorant, silly little boy. Simon moved his swollen tongue, but said nothing. "Don't you agree?" said the Lord of the Flies. "Aren't you just a silly little boy?" Simon answered him in the same silent voice. Now remember, he's about to go into a seizure. He's dehydrated, he's exhausted, and he's having a medical issue, okay? So he says, "Well then," said the Lord of the Flies, "you'd better run off and play with the others. They think you're batty. You don't want Ralph to think you're batty, do you? You like Ralph a lot, don't you? And Piggy and Jack." And Simon's head was tilted up, slightly up. His eyes could not break away, and the Lord of the Flies hung in space before him. "What are you doing out here all alone? Aren't you afraid of me?" Simon shook could be two things. It could be A, shook as in he says no to that question, "Aren't you afraid of me?" Or could be the start of his convulsions, him having a seizure. And he says, "There isn't anyone to help you, only me, and I'm the beast." So this thing says, "I'm the beast." And Simon really can't say anything, but he musters up enough energy to respond to the Lord of the Flies. And it says, Simon's mouth brought forth audible words, and he says, "Pig's head on a stick." And to me, that's him arguing with it, saying, "No, you're not. You're not the beast. You're just a pig's head on a stick." And he says, highlight, "Fancy thinking the beast was something you could hunt and kill," said the head. And for a moment or two, the forest and all the other dimly appreciated places echoed with the parody of laughter. "You knew, didn't you? I'm part of you. Close, close, close. I'm the reason why it's no-go, why things are what they are." You can stop there. And listen, think about that. If this thing is evil and the devil, doesn't that make sense then where he says, "Fancy thinking the beast was something you could hunt and kill"? Like in our world today, can we destroy evil and totally get rid of it? No, it's always part of our world, right? So that makes sense. And he says, "You knew, I'm part of you." So that is going right to the theme of the book, which is over there by Elliot on the window. And the theme of the novel is that human nature is inherently evil. That's what Golding's trying to prove. What he's saying is that all of us, you, me, her, everybody, we're all born with evil inside of our hearts. When we are, we're brought into this world, and it's only through law and rules and our parents and society that we learn to behave and contain the evil within us, and we don't let it out. Okay? Now, do some people in society let out their evil and hurt other people? You see it on the news all the time, right? This bombing, this school shooting, right? There are people that don't contain it, but we all contain it because we've been brought up, or we know right from wrong. Okay, so he says, "I'm part of you," okay? And then look, he says, "Come now, get back to the others and we'll forget the whole thing." Simon's head wobbled, his eyes were half closed as though he were imitating the obscene thing on the stick. And you're gonna start a second highlight right here. He knew that one of his times was coming on. The Lord of the Flies was expanding like a balloon. And he says, "This is ridiculous. You know perfectly well that you'll only meet me down there. So don't try to escape." Okay, pause there for a second. So what does the Lord of the Flies want Simon to do? He says, "Get back to the others." What is he asking him to do? Lucy?
Actually, the other boys.
And go back where?
And go back
Where are the boys right now?
to like the island or like the beach.
Yeah, and they're on the
Beach.
beach. So he wants them to go down there to the beach. So literally wants them to go down to the beach, but what could the double meaning be in down there if this is really this? Right, Abby? Right. And so in chapter 9, when Simon does eventually crawl his way to the beach, does he experience hell
Yes.
on earth? Yes, it's all foreshadowing. Okay? So then he starts to hear a schoolmaster's voice and flip the page, and this is what he says is his final thing to Simon. He says, "I'm warning you," highlight, "I'm warning you. I'm going to get angry, do you see? You're not wanted. Why isn't Simon wanted? Melanie? Because he's different, Josh? He's the good on the island, right? He says, we're going to have fun on this island. Keep highlighting. Understand? We are going to have fun on this island, so don't try it on, my poor misguided boy, or else. Don't try what? What is he afraid that Simon might do? What is he afraid of?
Making like everybody good again.
Yes.
How?
Like telling them to like
Telling them
trying
what?
to convince them
That what?
What?
that bad's bad.
Vivian?
They're trying to convince them that the beast isn't real.
Yes, and he knows that he'll do that if he climbs the
Mountain.
mountain. So he says, don't you try it or else. And then drop down and look at what the second part of this is. Highlight, or else we shall do you. Meaning what? We shall kill you. And look at all the boys he names are going to be part of killing him. Jack, Roger, Maurice, Robert, and Bill, and Piggy, and Ralph. And then Simon goes into unconsciousness. Okay? Now look at this answer because it's huge. Okay? The devil is evil and the Lord of the Flies represents or symbolizes the evil on the island. He tells Simon that he is part of him, of all of the boys, meaning that the boys have evil inside of them. That's what he means by I'm part of you. This evil is the reason why things are falling apart and why boys are acting out of their fear. The longer they stay on the island without rules and law, the more evil will come out of them and the more savage they will become. Simon is inherently good and purely innocent. He is the only boy on the island that does absolutely nothing wrong from the time he steps foot onto it until the time he takes his last breath. Never does anything wrong. He is different. And the Lord of the Flies wants him to go and be evil and savage like the other boys. Hold on. He threatens Simon and says that if you don't, we'll do you, meaning kill you.